Ever been in a situation where you obeyed God and yet you feel stuck and you're unable to move forward? There are some huge mountains before you, and you start wondering whether you really obeyed God or not. You're wondering whether God will help you or not. If that's you, stay tuned as you will find this podcast encouraging and comforting. This is how Moses felt when the Israelites kept rebelling and complaining to him. Moses was minding his own business in the desert as a shepherd. God called Moses to lead Israelites out of Egypt and take them to the promised land. But the Israelites became very rebellious and put Moses to a lot of test. Moses said to the Lord in Exodus 33, "You've been telling me, lead these people, but you have not let me know whom you will send with me. You have said, I know you by name, and you have found favor with me. If you are pleased with me, teach me your ways, so I may know you and continue to find favor with you. Remember that this nation is your people." Few verses before this, the Lord had said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites, you are a stiff-necked people. If I were to go with you even for a moment, I might destroy you. Now take off your ornaments and I will decide what to do with you." See, this is the context. And Moses is now asking God, who are you going to send to lead this people? And let me paraphrase what Moses said. Moses literally said to God, "God, I didn't sign up for this. You called me to lead this people, and they are very rebellious and troublesome. How are you going to help me?" We all have been in such situations. God, I didn't sign up for this. How are you going to help me? We need to remember the grace of God is always enough to the place where His will has taken you to. In other words, the will of God cannot take you to a place where His grace cannot hold you. Moses was in a predicament and was wondering, what's the way forward? Remember, it was the will of God that brought him and the Israelites to the wilderness. God had already planned how to provide to the Israelites in the wilderness. God had already planned the way out of all the battles Moses and the people would face. And God has already figured out a way for you. God will not take you to a place and get surprised by the events. It may be a surprise to you, but not to God. Look at how the Lord replied to Moses. He said, "My presence will go with you and I will give you rest." In other words, God said to Moses, "I will go with you. The challenges you face may be huge for you, but with my help, you'll be able to handle." See, we cannot do life with our own strength. If you find life hard, that means you're trying to go on your own. And we need to be like Moses. Look at Moses' response. He said, "If your presence does not go with us, do not send us up from here." Moses is saying, "I don't want to go forward if you're not coming with me." He is so dependent on God. And we need to learn to depend on God. We should not depend on our own strength or wisdom or strategy. We should lean on God's wisdom and strength. See, sometimes it is better if we feel weak and vulnerable, so we can rely on God's strength, than to feel confident and not wait on God. See, when we feel weak, we naturally rely on God. And God said to Paul, "My grace is sufficient for you, and my strength will be made perfect in your weakness." God's strength perfectly supplements our weaknesses. So let's learn to depend on God. And as you read this chapter, the Bible says, "And the Lord said to Moses, I will do the very thing you have asked, because I am pleased with you and I know you by name." And then Moses said, "Now show me your glory." See, this is a very unusual request from Moses. God gave a blank check to Moses, and Moses was interested to see God's glory. You know, that's what will happen when you spend time with God. You want to know more of Him. You thirst for Him. You hunger to know more of God. And glory is a word we cannot comprehend fully in this world, because our eyes cannot behold the glory of God. And it has never beheld such glory, because we were all born in sin. Glory is a combination of beauty, light, majesty, splendor. And God is ultimately beautiful, ultimately majestic, ultimately bright, ultimately powerful. So looking at God's glory is like looking at everything ultimate and perfect. And our fallen nature is not capable of beholding such glory. Our sinful bodies cannot be in the presence of such ultimately perfect God. And this is why God said to Moses, "You cannot see my face." But God did honor Moses' request partially by showing his back. God put him in a rock and covered him so Moses won't be consumed by God's holiness and glory. And why is this significant? Because when you see God, his glory and splendor, your problems will look tiny and insignificant. Sometimes when you don't know the way forward and you're perplexed in life, we need to kneel down and ask God to reveal himself to us. This is the perfect antidote for our problems. Rather than asking God to remove our problems, we need to ask God to show who he is. And he's a God who wants to come close to us. He's a relational God. He loves our company. See, I said God met Moses' request partially. But God did meet his request fully 2,500 years later approximately. God became man in the form of Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ is the exact representation of God. The Bible says, but he left his glory and became a man. Jesus did not stop being God, but he veiled his glory. And he chose not to use his divine attributes independently. And John records, the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. What is John talking about? John is talking about what happened in the Mount of Transfiguration. The Bible says, after 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, the brother of James, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. There he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as the light. See, Jesus showed his glory to his disciples, but not only to his disciples. The next verse says, just then there appeared before them Moses and Elijah talking with Jesus. Did you see how God fulfilled Moses' request? Moses couldn't see God's face back in Mount Sinai, but it's the same Moses who appeared talking to Jesus in glory. And that's the mystery of incarnation. God became man and he came so close to us so he can reveal his glory to us. Jesus prayed in John 17 this way before the crucifixion. He prayed to his Father, I have brought you glory on earth by finishing the work you gave me to do. And now, Father, glorify me in your presence with the glory I had with you before the world began. What is Jesus saying? He's saying that he left the glory he had before the world began. He left it for you and me. He emptied himself. Because so you and I can have the glory with which God created us originally before the fall. Adam and Eve lost the glory when they sinned. And one day all will be glorified when Christ comes. But the glory of Christ will be unmatchable. It will be the ultimate glory. He will be the ultimate beauty. He will be the ultimate splendor. And we can behold that glory day and night and will never be tired of that sight. I hope that's an encouragement for you. Thanks for watching and God bless.